Are our endpoints even coming back to the office? Hi, I'm Axel with Baramundi Software. Are our endpoints even coming back to the office? That is a question a lot of IT departments are asking themselves right now. This year we have seen quite a few changes in the IT world, and endpoint management has become a whole new role and priority for many organizations. So in this presentation I will go into the different scenarios you may encounter and how it will affect your way of endpoint management. So what happened so far? Well, most of you are pretty aware of this, but I still want to touch on what happened and where we are standing right now. It's been almost exactly a half year since the states and companies had to go into lockdown and switch to a whole new way of working, like working from home or implementing extreme safety measurements and office shifts, etc. And 6 months in the IT are a very, very, very long time. I mean, that's already 5 years in dog years. Or to be even more accurate, converting computer years into human years makes it about 8 years. Yes, computer in human years is a real thing. So what happened in this time? For once, to all who didn't work on laptops before, had to hand out laptops to their users to be able to work from home. You might still have a lot of machines in the office which haven't been touched since, which is totally understandable. Why do the extra work? You were busy enough with everything else to adapt to the new situation, right? And to be honest, nobody expected it to be 6 months and longer. Most of us assumed everything might be back to normal in the summer. That made a lot of organizations implement stopgap solutions and didn't plan for possibly years. Well, then we got a new Windows 10 version. And even Microsoft had to send their employees home. They almost made it in time with their release 2004 end of May. And this August, Microsoft released another 112 patches on their Patch Tuesday, which brings us to the highest number ever released by Microsoft in a year. But Microsoft was not the only one who blessed us with some updates. Adobe directly gave us 7 of those for Acrobat DC and Acrobat Reader since February. Then these times are just a dream for scammers and hackers. The FBI announced in April already that the cyber attacks are 4 times higher than before. You probably heard of a few cases, phishing emails by attracting users with masks and sanitizers, maybe even toilet paper, as well as COVID statistic charts to make people give out their personal data and download malicious malware. The users are not necessarily in their safe environment behind the firewall anymore, and may be much easier to reach from the outside. You spend all this money on firewalls and package inspectors, etc., and then the users are simply connected through their private ISP router. So where do we go from here? With states, countries, businesses reopening, there are different ways of how it might continue from here. Twitter, for example, announced pretty early already that they want to keep their users working from home forever and don't ask them to come back. Amazon, Facebook, and others, which used to be pretty strict about employees needing to be in the office, joined this movement and don't make it mandatory anymore to come to one of their offices. It will most likely be up to the user where they are working from and if they want to go to a provided office or not. On the other hand, there are companies which made pretty clear already that it's mandatory to come back to a certain time. Like Epic Systems from Wisconsin told their 9,000 plus employees to be back within next week. But what does that mean for our endpoints? There are different scenarios of which one might apply to you. As Twitter and Co, for example, some of you might stick with the new adapted workflow of working from home. If not permanently, this is most likely going to be that way for a while, at least for most of us. Second option, your organization decides to go completely back to the way it used to be and ask all employees to come back to the office, like Epic Systems. And I assume a lot of companies will actually go with the best out of both worlds and go with a hybrid solution and offer more flexibility for their employees and let them decide when or how often they want to come to the office. Or maybe go with a fixed like 3-day, 2-day solution. Whatever your organization decides to do, all of these ways come with some key challenges we have to be aware of. Let's start with the current situation where our users are working from home and will be staying there. You managed one of the biggest steps already, getting the users up and running to work from home. But even the machines are not in the office, or maybe especially then, they need some care, and after they are not behind the firewall in your safe network, you want to know what's happening on your endpoints. So, in that meaning, a good inventory tool to give you status information, versioning, patch levels, etc. That's just the bare basic you want to accomplish. A vulnerability assessment on top of that gives you early awareness if there's any open door on your endpoints. Then you want to make sure the endpoints are up to date. The ones of you which work with a WSUS and logon scripts probably realize pretty quickly it's not made for this particular scenario. Let the users patch the machines themselves. Are they taking care of this? What happens if something goes wrong? You know who's going to be responsible and blamed in the end. And not just Microsoft. As mentioned earlier, we have applications like Adobe and others which bring out several updates every month. You also want to be able to provide the users all the applications they need, VPN clients, conference tools, especially working remotely now. But what happens if something went corrupt and needs to be reinstalled? You probably don't want them to have to come to the office every time for this. And if there's no VPN connection, you have to find a different way than GPOs to enroll configurations and security settings to the endpoints as well. That's at least not a big issue when your endpoints are coming back to the office. You will encounter some of the same challenges, but in this case, they behave a little bit different. Here it's very important to plan ahead before they come into the office. We have two kinds of machines in that scenario, the ones which were left in the office and the laptops the user will bring back. On the office machines, we need to know what is the status and what needs to be done before the user comes back. If there's a patching process in place, then it shouldn't be the biggest issue, especially if you have the possibility to work with Wake on LAN. But we also talked about the new Windows 10 version 2004. So it might be a good idea to consider doing the upgrade before the users come back. And on the other hand, if you don't want to do the upgrade, you might still need to deploy some GPOs or registry settings to suspend the automatic Windows upgrade. Also, with the laptops, you want to know upfront what's happening on them before they come back into the network. Did the users install any applications for their kids for homeschooling? Is there anything outdated? Are there any critical vulnerabilities on the machine? Depending on this information, you need to get those machines up to date and fixed. I mean, sure, you could wait till they are back in the office and then on your network. But do you really want them to join the network like this? Can the user even work when 6+ months of patches are getting installed? Anyways, you need to expect very long login times unless you do something about it. So it's a good idea to also plan ahead here and ideally patch them before they come back and schedule tasks right. And then, are the users switching back to the office machines, or do they keep the new laptops? Your users probably stored their data locally while working from home, and maybe even stored corporate data on private-owned devices. So you may need to provide options for backing up user data properly, like providing USB sticks or hard drives. And after the data might be compromised, you want to prepare a sandbox where the data gets scanned by your antivirus first. Last but not least, we have the hybrid scenario. The hybrid scenario is pretty much a mix out of both worlds. I mean, it comes with some challenges from both, but also gives you a little bit more opportunities on how to manage your endpoints. After you can as well pick the best use cases from both worlds. So far from what I see, this is going to be the most common way companies will be moving forward with. Organizations realize users can be really productive working from home, but still don't want to lose track of them being always gone. Let's start from the bottom this time. How are the users handling their backups? Are they working via VPN and have access to the network shares? If not, you might need to coordinate backups whenever they are back in the office, here of course with the same precaution as mentioned before. With users coming in on a regular basis, you can patch them much better whenever they are in the office. But sometimes this might not be fast enough for some security-related things. So with a process in place which allows you to patch in both worlds, you can take advantage of both. Everything big and bulky, for example, future updates and CAD application updates, you can do whenever the endpoint is back in the office. But everything security-related, like small application updates, Microsoft patches, you might want to do as soon as possible. And that brings us to the biggest challenge of the world of working hybrid. You have to be able to schedule things right. I mean, what should happen when the user is working at home? What should happen when the user brings the machine to the office? How much time do you have when the user brings the machine to the office? Is it a 3-day, 2-day scenario? Maybe you win an extra night where the user leaves the machine in the office, so that gives you probably some break on LAN options as well. These are all things you want to take into consideration for the next steps in your endpoint management. And after nobody can tell for sure what's going to be, you want to be flexible for every possible scenario. For anyone who doesn't know Baramundi yet, our Baramundi Management Suite is a unified endpoint management which helps you manage most of the mentioned topics and more. It's a module-based software which lets you pick functionality based on your needs, like inventory, software into S deployments, or patch management. The patch management, for example, gives you the option to choose between a repository or the WSUS for your internal devices, and at the same time, for users working remotely, you can force the endpoint to patch via Microsoft Update Online. No VPN needed, which lets you schedule any deployments and tasks when you want to run them, no matter where your endpoints are. And with the real-time feedback, you're always up to date on the status as well. And that helped over 300 organizations since the beginning of the pandemic already, because we created the Jumpstart package to help IT departments switching to work from home and managing the remote workforce. That offer is still available, so check it out on baramundi.com or contact us for more information. We are on the market since over 20 years now, founded in Germany and with US headquarters here in Framingham, Massachusetts. And over 3,500 customers in pretty much any business are managing their endpoints with Baramundi today. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions. We look forward to connecting with you.